Okay, so it is actually raining outside at the moment. It is June. It is June the 10th as of today, so we are in winter. I was very conscious about making this video because of my acne at the moment, and because I'm on the treatment, it's going really bad. Because in order for the treatment to work, it has to go bad, and then it gets better. So I started it about 2 weeks ago. But today we're going to be ranking the Among Us Skeld OG map, and we're going to be ranking all the rooms from the safest to the least safe. So 14 would be the one that you want to avoid as a crewmate, and then 1 would be the one that you're like, oh yeah, it's fine. So let's get into it. All right, so number 14 is electrical. If you've ever played on the Skeld, you'd understand why. It is because there is a vent in the top corner, and it's right where the tasks are. So someone doing I believe it is the download data one, is the one in the top corner. The vent's basically right underneath it. So the triangle, as the dangerous triangle, as they call it, which is security, medbay and electrical, someone can just jump out of it, kill you and vent, and then go back to one of the other 2 rooms. There's 4 tasks, they're all up behind that box thing. There's 2 sabotages, so you can close the doors and sabotage the lights. And it's just a room that a lot of people have tasks in, and it's a very isolated room, so people that go in there have the risk of getting killed. If you go in groups, it's probably better because there's only 3 imposters max in a game. I like to play with 2 imposters, so that way you can't get killed. Because I mean, you could, now there's shapeshifters, you might be able to, but it makes it safer. But that's why that room ranks the lowest, because it is the most unsafe room. 13 is another room in that triangle. In fact, all 3 rooms in the triangle are the 12, 13 and 14. So medbay has the visual task, but you can also lock the door to get into it. But there's no other sabotages. You can just lock the door, but there's no like lights or anything, because that's only in electrical. But I think it's also because that top corridor, you can barely see into it to medbay, so you can still kill in there fairly easily and vent away into electrical or security. There's 2 tasks in there. There's the one where you press the button and then you come back and pick the anomaly, and the visual one. But it's still a dangerous room, but it's not as bad because there's nothing to really hide behind in there. It's just a matter of whether the imposter goes in there or not. All right, 12, security. We're still in the dangerous zone. Security is also a dangerous room. There is 2 tasks there, the cameras, 1 vent, and there is the door lock. So you can still lock the door in security. Now, I think that's a problem because security is a very small room. So you can be locked in there, and if you're not an engineer, you just have to you'd be trapped in there, and then you're scared. What if that vent opens and then someone pops out and kills you? And there's like no room to move around in there. So at least in electrical, or even better medbay, you can move around, but you can't really do that in security. However, the cameras, and there's a camera right outside security, that makes it a lot safer than the other 2. I feel comfortable going into security more than I do medbay and electrical, but I think it's still a room you have to be wary of when you go into, particularly if the lights are off, because I've seen people being killed in there and then people have vented and I've just seen the vent move and I didn't see who did it. So just be wary of security. Number 11 for me is navigation, and that is because there is 2 vents in there, not 1, 2. There's also a lot of tasks. There is the stabilized steering task, the aligning task, there is a download data, and a accept diverted power, and I think there's a fixed wiring task in there too. There's 5 tasks in navigation. 2 vents, 1 in each corner. The top one goes to weapons, the bottom one goes to shields, and for that reason, it's once again an isolated spot. One thing that makes it safer than electrical is there's a vent. There's a camera outside of it, and that camera actually, one of the vents is actually right where the camera is. So if you're an imposter using that vent, you want to be careful. I mean, now that there's engineers, you might be able to get away with it. But just be wary of navigation. And I'm shocked that navigation is actually quite a dangerous room, but it is. And I think it's also because it's kind of a long corridor to get in there. And once you're in there, there's 2 vents and there's only 1 way out. So also be aware of navigation. Number 10 is reactor. Once again, like navigation, just at the opposite end. Navigation's on the far right, reactor's on the far left. 2 vents, there is 3 tasks, or maybe 2 tasks. I think there's only 2 tasks. There's the Simon Says, and the other one that you've got to press all the numbers. The good thing about Simon Says is that it actually remembers. So if a meeting's called or a body's reported, then you can actually go back and it will actually repeat it for you to wherever you got up to. Reactor's safer, I feel, because less people go in there. It is a bit less isolated. The camera is closer to it. It's like right outside it. and there's less tasks in there, so people have less of a reason to go in there. There's also a few more hiding spots in reactor, but it is still in that sort of danger area, so I'd still be wary going in there. Okay, number 9 is now where we're starting to get into the safer zone. So next I've got lower engine, actually both the engines, but I've got lower engine rank first. That is because there's a fuel task and there is a accept diverted power task. And I think there's another task in there. I'm no good with tasks, but you can lock the door and you can go to reactor and lower engine by the vents, and there's no way of getting out of there. And I'll just do the other one as well. Number 8 would be upper engine for the same reason. I just think I've had less kills of me in upper engine, so I'm just ranking that one up, even though they're basically the same. Number 7 is storage. Even though it's a wide open room that's got lots of tasks in it, there is no vent and you can close the doors. So if someone kills you in there and the doors are shut, I mean, there's no way that anyone can get in because there's no vent. So the imposters can't get out. That means that you're trapped in there with an imposter. But there is a few good hiding spots in there, which is why I've ranked it a bit higher. That's because you can hide, there's a moving box on the left side and you can hide up behind it. And if someone had a close look, they'd obviously see you, but at a quick glance, no one would see you. So that's why number 7 is storage. Okay, number 6 is shields. Now, shields has a vent down in the corner. It also has the visual called prime shields and an accept diverted power. There is no download data like there is in weapons, and I think it's very similar, but it is slightly more dangerous because you're further away than you would be in weapons. So someone could kill you and then just vent. But it's on the safer side. It's definitely safer than electrical, for example, but it's not as safe as some of the upcoming rooms that I'm about to tell you about. Okay, same for weapons. That's the same as shields, but I think it's a bit safer. You've got the asteroids task, you've got a download data task, and then you've got the same other 2 tasks. You've got a accept diverted power. But the thing about it is that you're right by the cafe. If you see something sus, you can just run, call a meeting, and it feels more opened. I don't know if that's just me. I just feel that weapons is more opened than shields, and therefore it is safer. Number 4 is O2. There's not really much I can say about O2 since there's no vent in O2 and it's a very, very small room. But there is the pushing the leaves out and a empty chute and the fixed sabotage. So it is relatively safe. I don't think that it's very often to get kills in there. And when someone says, oh, body was in O2, I'm like, oh, what? Because it's a really small room. But I think if someone killed in there, they probably could run and vent into weapons. But I've ranked it pretty high up because it is a relatively safe room. And if you have a task in there, it's very open. Like you can see straight in there. When you're going up the hall, you can see straight into O2. So number 4, O2. Number 3 is actually my favorite room on the Skeld map, and that is communications. I love communications. When I'm done with my tasks, I will hide in communications. There is actually a chair in comms, and if you hide behind that, it's really hard to see. At a quick glance, as someone going down that lower right corridor, no one would even see you. If they looked, they probably would. And if you go right up into comms, you can also hide in that corner. There is a download data and an accept diverted power task, and you fix the comms in there right where the chair is. But if you have the cyan skin, really hard to see you in there. And people don't really go in there. Imposters wouldn't think to kill in there because there's no vent. They can't really escape. And if someone saw them coming out of there and they went in, they'd report it and they'd see it was them that did it. So it's a really safe room for crewmates to hide in. Number 2, admin, where everyone swipes their card and has the admin table and you upload your data. Admin is a busy room. You have your admin table, you have your swipe card, you have your upload data, there's a fixed wiring task. There's no accept diverted power though. It's actually the only, I'm gonna call it room locked. O2 and admin are the only room locked rooms. It's like admin is basically right in the middle. It's surrounded by rooms. And it is a really safe room. I don't panic going in there. Plus you've got the admin table. So if you see someone just disappear all of a sudden and they don't appear somewhere else, it means a body's been killed. I think a downside is that there's no vitals on the Skeld map. Now they've got the scientist role, you can get vitals, but the airship and Polus have a vitals table built in. There is a camera, I believe, outside admin. So another reason it's a relatively safe room. And number one, obviously, is the massive, massive room at the top. It is called the cafeteria, where you spawn after a meeting. I mean, come on, it's the safest room. There's a vent down in the bottom corner, but if you hide up the top, no one's even going to see you. There's a few tasks up there. No, 2 people are going to have the same task. So if you see 3 people up there, it's obviously something's going on, and then you can just run straight out. You're right by the meeting button. It's the safest room on the map. I think that maybe communications I prefer more, because I like to hide in communications because no one really goes in there. But no one's really going to pull off a kill in the top area of the cafe, which is why it's the safest room on the map. So there you go. That's my ranking of the 14 rooms on the Skeld map. Next one I'm going to be doing is the airship. But just so you know, I've made a tier list. So you got, you know, your S tier, your A tier, your B tier, your C tier, your D tier. And here it is up here. I'm just going to actually put it full screen so you can see it. Another thing I just wanted to warn you guys of is that in Reactor, a lot of people don't actually know this. There is a dummy task that is a divert power, accept diverted power. That task is not real. All right, there is one in a lot of rooms. I think there's one in security, upper engine, lower engine. There's not one in electrical or medbay, because electrical is where you divert it. There's one in the cafe, comms, shields, nav. Admin doesn't have one, and I think weapons has one. But just be aware of that dummy one in Reactor. Not a real task. If you see someone doing it, they're probably just trolling, because I mean, everyone knows it's not a real task. But if you see someone doing it, just be wary that they may be a troll, an idiot, or they are the imposter.